We went on a trip.
Yeah.
Famously, everyone who went on the trip was gay.
Was it the
except
Big
for
Bear
me.
trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
And who brought Pepsi and Diet Pepsi? My friend Dan.
All of the queer folks.
And that's what we
Dan.
drank the whole weekend with tequila. And why was that? Because we knew we wanted to have a really
Because
good
it was your
time.
birthday and he knew you
Yeah,
liked
and you liked
Pepsi,
Pepsi.
and he gave up what he probably really wanted in order to celebrate you.
Okay, we're getting into the blunders, but I want to just speak on the blunders really briefly. Obviously, Crystal Pepsi was incredibly, like, people were scared of it. But I'll say this. Once it came out and then obviously it was a flop, it was the only thing my dad ever bought. And it was
Because it was for sale?
because it was on sale. So I drank a lot of Crystal Pepsi. And so I have a little bit of a fond place in my heart for Crystal Pepsi, even though it was kind of a blunder. But it was,
It did.
When
it
I
scared
met you, I
people.
thought
You
she's
thought-
drank a lot of Crystal Pepsi.
There are people on YouTube that literally are drinking like old expired Crystal Pepsi. And I was like, that's kind of gross.
I think in
No, but that's
Time
iconic.
Magazine ranked Crystal Pepsi one of the worst 10 products of all time.
kidding.
And I feel like
And
that
I was
it's-
drinking it like all
It's perfect
yeah.
for Pepsi's like vibe because they're not afraid to like shoot big. But yeah, people were like
Yeah.
afraid of it
It
Yeah.
was
because
scary.
it was clear but tasted like Pepsi. So
Pepsi,
they're
like,
like,
it's
what
like-
did you have to do?
You know,
What's the
whenever,
syrup?
you know, whenever you like you go to drink, like you think it's water and it's
Yeah.
milk. That's what it felt like drinking. You're like, and then you're like, what is this?
You take a big
I
gulp
know
of
what you
water and
mean.
it's
Yeah.
vodka.
No,
Like,
no.
this
Well,
is vodka.
Coke also messed up. In the 90s, they changed the formula slightly and people were outraged.
Oh yeah, they called it the new Coke.
Yeah, and they called it the new, and they were mad about it.
And you know what
Yeah.
they did?
What?
They made it more sweet because that's why when they had that like big campaign, they were like, oh, there was that commercial where someone's like, oh, can I have a Coke? And they're like, we don't have Coke, but we have Pepsi. Is that okay?
Yeah.
They like played with that and they were like,
Mhm.
Pepsi is actually the best. And
No, I don't think they said that.
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
And in blind taste tests, Pepsi did so much better than Coke, like in the 80s and 90s, because it was sweeter and it was just like easier to be like, this one tastes better. And so
Yeah.
Coke changed its formula to be like slightly sweeter. Like a Pepsi.
Yeah.
They changed it to
And
be like
people
a
were
Pepsi.
outraged. They were
Well,
like, this tastes like shit. Change
It's
it
so
back.
funny. It's so funny that it's so funny. I'm looking at this like Pepsi blunder list, and I'm like, "This is my dad loved all of it." I remember
They're like
because
flops.
Pepsi
Yeah.
Blue was like a berry flavored thing, and I remember my dad
Oh, yeah.
again. It was on
Yeah.
sale. My dad was like, "Look at this Pepsi Blue. Yeah, let's get some Pepsi Blue." And we used to eat a lot of bologna casserole, which is another dish.
Oh my
But
God.
here's the thing: whenever you're somebody like me and you're just eating whatever, it's like bologna and egg casserole. You don't really care what you're drinking, but it was nice. It was cool. It was fun. It was like different. And
Have
I
a
think
Pepsi.
It
well
was
with
like a thing where I was
egg.
like, wow, berry flavored Pepsi. So in my house, these were not blunders.
I
Also,
passionately want you to work for Oscar Mayer. Like, can someone from the Oscar Mayer team please like
different
put
people drive
Alyssa on a bologna float?
the vehicle.
Like
Here's
the little hot
the
dog
little hot
car.
dog car?
Oh my
Wants
God,
to
put
make
Alyssa in the hot
bologna
dog car.
casserole. It's a layer of scrambled eggs, a layer of bologna,
God.
a layer of potatoes, and a layer of cheese.
This is reminding me of, so I played viola growing up. It's like a violin, only bigger.
It's a
I wanted
deeper
to
violin.
I wanted to play trumpet, but my mom said I had to play a string instrument. And I
Random.
I hated going to viola lessons, and so she would get me like a little treat afterwards. And I
Yeah.
do remember afterwards I did get a Pepsi Blue one time, and she was like, "That's what you want?" Like after the lesson, and I was like, "That's just like sounds good to me." And it literally tasted like a berry smoothie, but without the smoothie texture. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's like, it is interesting to think about these flavors because you can't really find Crystal Pepsi and Pepsi Blue anymore. But I remember the Crystal Pepsi tasted a little bit like Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Yeah.
A sugary
Yes.
Alka-Seltzer Plus.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Like it was weird, but it was good. And those bubbles, anything with bubbles, I'll drink it up.
I always feel like that if you shook both a Pepsi and a Coke up, the Pepsi was like way more explosive, which was fun.
Yeah, it's a different kind of carbonation. I think their bubbles
You
are
would
tighter.
use the
Yeah.
Pepsi for
Yeah.
more science projects.
Ugh.
But you know what
And
we haven't talked
pranks,
about?
for pranks.
For pranks. We have a little cousin, a Mexican Coke, which is even more delicious. The
Okay.
syrup is just slightly different.
Well, we're
The
talking
design of
about
the bottle.
blunders.
You know what? I know, but you know what? I
We're in
moved
the
along.
blunder.
I I moved along.
No, okay, you're right.
Okay.
Mexican Coke is really good.
It's delicious.
It is
Hold
really
the
good.
It's
way
really
you hold
sugary.
the bottle, like there's something so visceral about holding that bottle.
I want you guys to talk about black Coke. That was scary.
Let's talk
Shut the
about
hell up and
black
talk about
Coke.
it.
Courtney-
You gotta talk about your blunders.
Here's the thing. I
This one
love
is a-
coffee.
Why are you asking Courtney?
This one's offensive to me, and I'm wondering if it's offensive to Courtney. And that's what I
What?
just wanna
Coke
ask.
Black?
Yeah.
I love the idea of coffee and I love Coke. Maybe not so much together.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it was when they put coffee and Coke together because for whatever reason they wanted to give us an explosive caffeine experience. But
terrifying.
people weren't feeling it.
But you know,
Yeah.
they were drinking. There was an episode of Friends where they drank Coke Black.
Really?
So there you go. There was some
Were
diversity
they
on the show.
having-
Oh, and if
Were-
you want to watch that episode about Friends and Seinfeld,
Oh, yeah, that's
you can
right.
go. You can go watch that. Okay, that's
It's a
another
pretty good
episode
one.
we did.
Yeah, we was chatting.
Okay, I guess we all had blunders. We changed the syrup a little bit. People
Mhm.
freaked out. They were like, "We want the original." We had a couple weird flavors. I think Coke Zero's weird. I think that tastes weird.
Mm.
It's
You don't like
people
Coke Zero?
I
Some
don't
people
like
are
it.
freaky for it. They love Coke Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's like a slightly. I like the traditional flavor. You
Yeah.
know what it is? As an immigrant, like growing up in Brazil, getting a Coke was such an exciting thing. It was also like the American dream. Like, oh my
Mm.
God, I get to have a Coke. It was like a little piece of America. That's what it felt like, you know?
Yeah.
Give me a little flag, a Coke, a cheeseburger.